Hello, crafty, Copic, and Dare to be Artsy friends. We are coloring up a new image from Dare to be Artsy today, part of their ski season, Season's Greetings, stamp set with these cute bears that are off to the ski slopes. So I discovered or found a gal who is doing these fun knit sweaters on her Copic images, and so I did a little research on my phone, found some knit patterns that I liked, and then I am going to put kind of a knit pattern across this bear's jumpsuit, his ski suit. So I'm going to give myself two really light guidelines, and that's to kind of keep the pattern centered across his chest. And I decided I wanted to switch patterns. But I just looked up a bunch of them online and found a few that I really liked and that could save for later. And then this guy, it's going to go kind of across the center of his little jumper. And the rest of it is going to be a knit pattern too, but this is kind of where I'm starting. So I've got a group of blues that I'm going to use on this. And I'm literally going to do the entire thing in dots. The difference with most of this is that when I usually do dots, it's kind of randomly and just hitting them down pretty fast. These little dots are going to be in these tight little rows. So it's pretty precise, and unfortunately my hand's going to get in the way. But as it shifts to the side, you're going to see how this is kind of appearing on the shirt. So the first thing I'm doing is these little vertical lines that are going to be the trees on the center pattern, on the sweater pattern. So you're going to see they come across, and it's going right along that bottom pencil line that I drew. So I've got these little vertical lines, tall, short, tall, short, tall, short, and each of those little lines is created out of like 2 to 3 dots. And then I'm going to do the big zigzag that comes up and over the trees. Again, it's a little row of dots. So I'm slowly but surely adding these details that kind of are going to hit across his middle. And I'm going to create some of these rows, the zigzags, like the mountain line that are above the trees. So I'm just, again, going up and down in these V's. And then what I'm doing now, you're going to see as my hand moves to the right. And again, I'm sorry that I can't figure out a way I can go from the side, but then you're at a funny angle. You're going to see these little rows of dots all the way above, and that's going to create the sweater pattern that, or the sweater texture that's going to cover his whole jumpsuit. So he's bundled up in knit today. And then I've got a couple nice solid rows right underneath the trees, and that's going to just kind of base that pattern and get it set into place. And then, believe it or not, his legs are all knit and his arms are knit too. So you're going to see me kind of run through and hit dots all the way through there. I'll come back in a second because I'm going to add a little more detail into that pattern. So I decided I'm losing that pattern, the actual trees. So I'm coming back with a B37. That first marker was a B24. This is a B37. And I'm going to add some detail or darken up the actual pattern portion. So the trees, so I'm going right over the top of those dots. I figured if I hit an extra dot or it bumped into them, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm doing the trees. I'm doing the couple rows beneath the trees and adding even some big dots to create kind of that block, almost like a square pattern underneath. And I'm going to do a little bit with the mountains above, but again, that's going to focus onto that center kind of little sweater pattern that I found online that I like so much with the trees. Then of course we've got the rest of the bear. So he's going to have some green detail, and I'm going to go dark to light because these are pretty small areas, and I've just been enjoying doing that lately. So I'm starting with the G05 and laying in some of those darker areas on his mittens and his scarf and also his little hat. Next is G02, and I will finish that with a G00. Because I've worked from dark to light, I've got that mostly blended together, so you won't see me do a lot of going back and forth, but I might add a little bit of that dark G05 or the darker G05 back in, because these are all pretty pale colors. Ski boots are going blue, so I've got my B37 and I think 24 is going to be next. And then finishing off with a B12. Next, I'm going to hit the snow and also the bear. He's going to be a polar bear, so I'm using a BV20 and then some colorless blender. This is one of my favorite Copic markers because it has a beautiful effect when it's hit without alcohol again, and the colorless blender kind of separates the blues and the violets and gives that cool, crisp effect. A BG quadruple 0 is going to finish off the sky area. And this, obviously, I sped way up. I am just filling in that sky. I'm using kind of a circular stroke just so that I get smooth, even coverage. I've switched to my chisel nib. I feel like for especially a broad sky, that works better. I get more even, full coverage. So I'm just filling that in. I'm going to add some details, a little more up in the snow, and also some stripes down the length of both skis because I felt like those were kind of glaring and I didn't want to add a lot of shading. They're kind of flat objects. So just adding, excuse me, a kind of graphic pattern on those skis. All right, I think I've got him all finished up. He is ready for some little possibly glitter details on the snowflakes in the sky and on the snow around his boots and skis. And I will add him onto a card. Thank you so much for joining me over here at the Dare to Be Artsy YouTube channel. And I hope to see you soon over at Copic in the Craft Room as well, or on my blog at scrapweaver.com. Thanks so much for joining us today, and from all of us here, we dare you to be artsy.